Hi there guys, welcome back to the Cryptoverse. My name is Chris Coney. So today we're going to do a request from a viewer. I did a recent video about security and they said, well, can you talk about private key security in EOS because that's a little bit confusing. So I've put together a little presentation for you to explain owner and active keys in EOS and then how to manage them. So let's get into that, shall we? So here we are. There's the presentation. And here we go. Let's get into it right now. So this is by request from an audience member. So what we'll do first is a quick primer on what these owner and active keys are, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So let's go to the next slide here. Sometimes Google Slides requires me to click. Oops, there goes my recording. So EOS uses account names for simplicity, but ironically, it gets a bit more complicated because of the way it achieves that simplicity. So EOS is actually more complex than Bitcoin because Bitcoin wallets have just two simple components. You have the public address, which is to receive transactions, and you have the private key, which allows you to send the transactions, right? That's it. That's all we need to worry about. And then we can create any number of receiving addresses for our public address. So that we do actually in Bitcoin, not many people know this, but your public address is actually fixed. It's just that we don't share that with people. We hash it and then get an infinite number of receiving addresses that we use, one time. It's very simple. Two components in a Bitcoin wallet. Whereas in EOS, because those long cryptographic addresses are a little bit hard to manage, EOS uses account names, right? So account names are at the very top, like my account name, if you want to nominate me as an EOS proxy, is Chris J.S. Coney. So that's far easier for me to say, I'll just send the funds to Chris J.S. Coney than it is to say the whole cryptographic address. So that's the EOS account, say Chris J.S. Coney. And then not only do we have a public key and a private key, we actually have two sets of keys. So there are different things you can do with an EOS account. There's an owner of the account, and then there's the active key on the account. So these are like permissions. It's like who owns the account and who has the ability to do things actively with it. So the owner key can do anything and the active person can do anything except change the owner key. So each of these types, each of these permissions have their own set of keys. So you'll notice this in EOS. We'll get onto the specifics of this in a second when I show you it on a real wallet. But your owner keys, you have a public address and a private key for the owner, and then you have a public address and a private key for the active. But like I put here in yellow, these keys by default are the same. And it works just like Bitcoin in the sense that the public address allows the receiving, and the private key is the thing you keep private, which is for the sending or the changing of the account or doing transaction, that kind of stuff. So I say there are actually 4 components to an EOS account. There's actually 5. There's the account name itself, that's number 1. Then you have the public and private key for the owner and the public and private key for the active permission. So 2 key pairs and then the account name itself. So the main problem with the owner and the active key being the same is that if you're using your active key to do active things like interact with smart contracts and play games and so on, if somehow, right, the private key for your active permission is stolen, well, then it gives you the entire access to your account, doesn't it? Because both of the keys are the same. So it's actually simpler to have the keys the same, but it's less secure. So, what's the point in having this structure where you have the different permissions if the keys are the same? You may as well not bother, right? Just like any computer system in a company, you have different permissions, like the manager can do everything, and then maybe the deputy manager can do less stuff, and then the basic worker can do less stuff. It's just like that. So moving on from there, that's the problem with having them the same. But the benefit of having them different, if the 2 keys are different, then we don't ever use our owner key, right? We just have that locked away and never use it, or hardly ever use it. And then we just use our active key for doing day-to-day stuff. Like I've said there, we just use our active key for 99% of the time. Then it's unlikely, but if our active key got stolen somehow, all we'd have to do is dig out our owner key and that allows us to then change our key, for the active key that got lost, and that's the end of it. So like my little diagram here, at the bottom, what I've done is I've depicted the active key being disconnected from the EOS account. So I could say to the EOS blockchain, I said, look, this set of keys at the bottom, this public address and this private key, it no longer is allowed to do anything with the EOS account called Chris J.S. Coney, right? So then, like I've put down on the bottom right-hand side there, if I did that public address and private key, they would still be valid keys, perfectly valid EOS keys. It's just that they wouldn't be able to do anything because they're not attached to an EOS account. Those keys no longer have permission to do anything with any EOS account, right? And neither would they want to if the person had stolen them, because they know they're not private anymore. So in this instance, I would have used my owner key to just generate a new pair of keys. I would generate a new public address and a private key. I would assign that to be my new active, and there we go. Now everything's private once again, and I can carry on. This, of course, does rely on me discovering that my active key has been stolen, and it also relies on me, running to get my owner key and changing it before the attacker or the thief has chance to do anything with it. Now, they may be able to remove funds from my account having stolen the active key, but what they can't do is take complete and utter possession of my EOS account, because the only thing that can do that is the owner key, which they don't have, because we don't use that. We keep that super, super, super private. Now, you could argue that if you use a Ledger Nano S to secure your EOS keys, well, it's a hardware wallet, so it doesn't matter if the keys are the same, because the keys never touch a computer anyway. So what if they are the same? If you use a Ledger Nano S, who cares, right? No one can get them from the hardware wallet anyway. And this is something that I was trying to reconcile when I created this presentation, but at the minute I can't actually give a logical argument as to why you need to bother changing your keys if you're using a Ledger hardware wallet. So this is for comment at this point from you in the audience. So if you use a Ledger Nano S, there's no circumstance under which I can think that it's worthwhile changing your active key. I mean, what's the point? It's super secure in the hardware wallet anyway, so why not just leave them the same? That's my current position. So if you've got an argument against that, and you can argue why that is insecure, please post a comment on today's episode. However, this is assuming that you do want to set up your different keys for owner and active. So this is going to be the general process. Say if you are using a software wallet like Scatter and you're not using a hardware wallet, that will definitely be the case for changing and making sure that the keys are different. So here's the general process coming up right now. But I've said here, be careful when doing this. Pay attention to what you're doing. Don't do it casually. Make sure you've eliminated distractions, right? Set some time aside to do this. And also, key, don't do this while you're tired. I've spoken to people, this year actually, who admitted that they were managing their crypto when they were fatigued and they made mistakes. So these are some sort of precautions you can take to make sure that you don't compromise your own security just by doing things like getting distracted or, having your attention wander because you're tired. So I'm going to show you the general tool to do this, but the process for generating new keys will be in an upcoming video because that's a separate topic. So I would recommend you use this blocks.io. It's blocks.io /wallet/permissions-manager. So I've already got this open actually. So I've logged into blocks.io with my Chris J.S. Coney account, which you can see in the top right corner here. And if you can't see the permissions manager, it's down the left-hand side. Under account, there's permissions manager. So what this will show you is, you see here, we've got permission number 1 is owner. And this is the public address that controls the owner permissions. And then down here, we've got the active permissions and another EOS public key that controls the active permissions. And what you'll notice in this case is that they're different. This one ends in FVY and this one ends in GUT. So I've already gone through the process of changing the keys. So my owner key is different to my active key. Now, it's okay for me to show you these because these are the public addresses. But in private, each of these keys is controlled by a different private key, right? Because that's the way it works. That's why we call it a key pair. This owner key, this is the public one, and it has its own private key that signs transactions. And this active permission, this public address, has its own private key. You know, when I talk about this stuff, it does remind me about how complex this still is and why we can't be surprised that adoption hasn't taken off. Because this is like hella complicated, really. But I'm doing my best to explain it to people who want to solve it at this point. So this is where you would change it. So all I did was generated a new pair of keys. The process to do that is coming up in a future video. But once I'd done that, I just went here and add key, entered the public address that I'd generated here, deleted the permission, the existing key, and then clicked on save, and then it would update the account permissions. I say be very careful when you're doing this because you could cut yourself off from your own EOS account, right? One of the benefits of this structure, though, is that this is how you would sell an EOS account to someone else. If you had like an amazing account name like Bill Gates, if that was your EOS account name, and someone wanted to buy it off you, well, you could do that just by clicking like add a key to the owner, entering the buyer's public address here, and then clicking save. I mean, removing yours as well, and that would transfer control of that EOS account to someone else. Super easy because the account is an asset, right? So that's the very basic process for changing the keys. I've just said this already, but you're going to ask like, how on earth do you generate new keys? Well, I'm going to do a separate video on that because it's a separate process. So let's move on from here. So that is really all I wanted to talk about today. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already, and share this video with your EOS friends. And also, please help me to fund this work, will you? This is not a casual side hobby of mine. It's how I make a living. And you can imagine how difficult that has been over the last year. So by the time you watch a video like this, which is relatively short, you wouldn't believe how much time, energy, and research goes into it. So you might think, oh, well, I only consumed 12 minutes worth of Chris's work. No, you didn't. You consumed hours and hours and hours of work that goes into making a short video. So please help make it sustainable. Don't leave it to someone else, because if you don't do it, no one will do it. My alternative is to start running sponsored, content, doing sponsored videos for ICOs, because that's my only option left, right? The other way you can support me is by purchasing my online courses. This was a security episode, so I've got an online course called Blockchain Security Essentials, which I'll put a link to down in the video description. And I've also put a discount coupon down there to get 50% off your first month's membership. And you get access to all the courses anyway. So that's that. You can also sign up as a patron down in the video description and earn cryptocurrency rewards as a supporter. For example, here's yesterday's episode called Can You Solve the Impossible Problem of Crypto Security? And you'll see when my patrons post comments on that content, this patron was tipped 24 cents in crypto rewards. This patron got 48 cents in crypto rewards. And it differs based on this person got 50 cents in crypto rewards for being a supporter and so on. So that's a little scheme that I've got that helps you to actually get a return on the money you pledge in support. But that is really all I've got for you today. I will be back with the next episode of the Cryptoverse. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.